History repeat itself in the Rick Chow case is genuinely disgusting and disheartening. I think what's adding to that feeling is seeing some of the Asian American community's responses on TikTok reacting to people saying they're going to boycott Asian businesses and only deciding to speak on that point. There is so much internalized anti-Blackness in the Asian community, and I'm speaking on this as someone who's half Chinese and half Black, to the point where someone can literally be murdered in cold blood, and your concern is people online saying they're going to boycott Asian businesses. It's really something to consider, and it runs so deep that I don't even know what to do about it at this point.
Asian guy, if you're so bold, if you don't need the black dollar, here's the thing. Do what the white...
Now that Asians are reacting to the Asian boycott by foundational Black Americans are getting scared now. They're feeling the pinch. They're feeling the threat of their economic situation inside the United States. The fact of the matter is, globally speaking, Asians and Latinos in general have more economic output, and they have a lot more economic influence to determine whether or not someone's culture is going to become successful internationally or not. That's how like acculturation sort of happens. It's kind of related. You need influence, you need money, you need power to some kind of degree in order for you to expand your influence, especially culturally. So Black Americans are in panic mode because they're picking fights with everybody, and some of us are pulling out.
I don't give a fuck about political sides, but it's been very disturbing to me that Black Americans have been gaslighting and intimidating Asians.
I understand why you're angry. I genuinely do. But one thing you're not about to do is generalize the entirety of a community, especially to fit your own political narrative. Why is it that when an issue goes down in any other community, the Black community is the first community every other community decides to call upon? And then when your community's respective movement doesn't get as much traction as it should be getting, y'all decide to involve, bash, and berate the Black community and the BLM movement to help gas up and gaslight your own political narrative. And you can't say this shit don't happen. Stop Asian hate. Protect Hispanic lives. Even just recently, this Palestine situation, it wasn't getting nearly as much traction as it should have, and I will agree with that. But y'all correlate that to bash BLM. For what reason? We understand why y'all angry. We understand more than anybody else why y'all angry. There isn't a situation today that y'all are going through that we haven't gone through at some point in history. Why are we the first ones y'all call when shit go wrong and the first ones y'all bash when shit go right? And I'm not saying Black people are innocent. I'm not dumb enough to say some shit like that. Every race has its bad apples, but it's sad that the first faces we always see to help y'all movement out are Black faces. And the only time y'all want to show y'all faces to berate Black people. POC solidarity starts with accountability. Why is it every community, including the Black community, decide to hold the Black community accountable when it's our time to be accountable for our actions? But when it's time for everybody else to be held accountable for their actions, all of a sudden Black people doing too much. Thing is, the Black community is still going to help out every community they find that needs help when they get a chance. And this is in the midst of me knowing they're going to still bash me, bash BLM, and bash the Black community. How disappointing.
I've seen more Asian Americans being upset at the fact that Black Americans are threatening to boycott Asian businesses than I have seen Asian Americans speaking out against the murder of Cyrus Carmick Belton, a child who was murdered at the hands of an Asian man. And this has everything to do with race, especially when anti-Blackness is so deeply rooted in our community. I have said this a million times, and I'll say it as many times as I need to so you can get it through your thick skulls. The only reason why Asians exist in America in such a large population is because Black activists fought for our right to be here during the Civil Rights Movement. White people did not want us here. It's not enough for Asian people to just be not racist. You have to be anti-racist, and you have to be speaking out against these injustices, or else they'll continue to happen. We absolutely owe the Black community solidarity, and the sooner that we realize that we're not much different from each other is the sooner that real change starts to happen.
I don't really know where this solidarity came from, and I have never, ever, and I've been studying a lot of things, I've looked at a lot of things, I've researched a lot of things. I was not aware that Black people during the Civil Rights Movement were fighting for Asian people to be here inside of the United States of America. As a matter of fact, I'm a huge advocate for abolishing birthright citizenship that was for the descendants of slaves, because I think that too many people in the Asian community, in the European community, in the Hispanic community, in the Mexican community, in the Venezuelan community, in every single community that comes here illegally, I believe that they are taking advantage of a loophole in order to be able to justify them getting citizenship here in the United States of America. But that's neither here nor there. Number one, I'm just wondering at what point will these panda bears and these people that are basically looking for acceptance from the black community actually acknowledge that this wasn't a kid. This was a teenager that was carrying a pistol with a laser on it, pointing it on regularly on social media. And more importantly, the reason why he didn't want to show what was inside of his hoodie, because they genuinely thought that he had stole something. He was in the store with no money, in there for over 20 minutes, taking stuff, putting it back, taking stuff, putting it back. And when he was finally confronted, because the actual family had called the police over 200 times over a period of time, they've been threatened. People have been threatening to go to the car. They've been shot at before, the whole 9 yards. The reason why he didn't want to show what was in his hoodie is because he knew it was a gun. So he was stuck between a rock and a hard place because he had put himself in a position. And that doesn't mean that it couldn't have been handled more effectively. But more importantly, I don't understand what the outrage is about when you mess around and find out.
I would like to thank the black people who have come forth and stated how useless it is to boycott all Asian businesses just because of one incident. We are not all the same. We are not all one culture. We are not our parents' generation. We are not going to call for a boycott of all black-owned businesses after a black-on-Asian crime. At least you're not going to see me doing that. And by the way, we don't claim this guy. No, we need to be focused on other things. We need to come together because I promise you it's a bit sus that this case received all this attention and went viral seemingly overnight. Back in 2023, when the incident happened, this was not on our radars. Now in 2026, when racial tension in this country is at an all-time high, now we hear about this all of a sudden. It's being covered by every single major news outlets who are run by the ones at the very, very top. Don't get me wrong, we should talk about these things. They are important. But I think it's time to talk more about unity because things seem like they're devolving into a race war. If you're curious about my thoughts on the case, because I've been away for about 2 weeks and I'm just coming back now, I don't know what to say. It is tragic a kid lost his life. It is tragic we do not have footage of the climax of the situation. Everybody has a counterpoint to every point from both sides. I will just say, there was no need to chase that kid out of the store. It doesn't matter where you stand. You can say it looked suspicious. Maybe they were fed up at that point, whatever. My bottom line is there was no need to chase that kid 100 yards, over 100 yards, in a situation where you brought a weapon with you just in case. And if you somehow were to know that Rick chased him out of racial prejudice, I promise you, not a single Asian on this planet would be surprised. Those are my thoughts. I'm happy to be back, guys. I do think these are important discussions to have, but I think also at this point, maybe we're kind of losing the plot a little bit. Let's push for more unity going forward. Thank you.
Asian guy, if you're so bold, if you don't need the black dollar, here's the thing. Do what the white...
Now that Asians are reacting to the Asian boycott by foundational Black Americans are getting scared now. They're feeling the pinch. They're feeling the threat of their economic situation inside the United States. The fact of the matter is, globally speaking, Asians and Latinos in general have more economic output and they have a lot more economic influence to determine whether or not someone's culture is going to become successful internationally or not. That's how like acculturation sort of happens. It's kind of related. You need influence, you need money, you need power to some kind of degree in order for you to expand your influence, especially culturally. So Black Americans are in panic mode because they're picking fights with everybody and some of us are pulling out.
In lieu of the verdict that found Rick Chow not guilty of murdering Cyrus Carmack Belton, there have been a lot of Black people that have expressed their outrage and have decided that they're going to boycott Asian establishments, whether it be restaurants, hair stores, nail shops, whatever. And there was this one guy that has a lot of the Black community riled up, and he was, just being boastful and saying, go ahead, just making it, basically, saying that, that Asians don't need Black people money and they aren't who keep them afloat. Really? In what world? Because I know conversely to what he said, that there are other Asians that are literally shaking with their chopsticks at the mere thought of losing all of the black dollars, because they have enough sense to know how much black people have contributed to their profits. I hate that it takes things like this happening with what happened to Cyrus in order to push black people to stop supporting these type of these racist establishments, because I don't feel that all of them are. But I hate that that's the only time that, well, most of the time that a lot of black people want to decide they want to go seek out other black people, businesses that do the same, when they should have been doing that beforehand. And what never ceases to amaze me about Asian people is they don't realize that a lot of the rights that they have in America now are due to the fact of what black people have suffered for and are still suffering through. And then they got the nerve to look at us like we're the second-class citizens, or like they want to be close to the very white people that want to distance themselves from the Asians until they need them or can profit off of them. And then the Asians turn around and try to employ those same tactics against black people, and then get mad when black people wake up concerned or got the nerve to try to criminalize stuff when we haven't even done anything criminal. If I go into any store and feel watched or anything like that, y'all, I immediately leave. I'm not going to spend my money with somebody while you're looking at me and just because of the color of my skin, your skin doesn't differ that much from the color of mine. But you got the nerve to feel that I'm lower or less than you. If God himself says that there is no respect of person, ain't no way I'm going to sit on this earth and look down on somebody else and feel like I'm superior to them, especially because of the color of my skin. But then again, I was raised with those type of morals, and I thank God for it. But I want to say again, justice for Cyrus Carmack Belton.
I'm boycotting all Asian businesses. And I said it with my blood clot chest.
A black woman who's really been making waves on social media lately. She's calling on the black community to basically boycott all Asian-owned shops, corner shops, restaurants, you name it.
You think it's just an accident that black businesses disappeared?
Now, why is she doing this? Well, she argues that Asian communities got a leg up from the British establishment. Like, historically, they had it easier getting mortgages, starting businesses, and just weren't targeted as much as black communities who faced, higher stop and search rates and more barriers to building wealth. So she's saying, let's redirect our money to black-owned businesses. And yeah, she's getting quite a bit of support from folks who feel like, finally, we're doing something to empower our own community. Some people are even saying they've already started boycotting and it feels good to keep the money circulating locally in the black community. But here's the other side. She's also facing a ton of backlash. A lot of people are calling this out as basically racism in reverse. They're saying, look, you can't boycott businesses based on the owner's skin color. That's just not how a modern, fair society works. Critics are pointing out that Asian communities face plenty of hardship too. They dealt with racism, Islamophobia, and they often succeeded because of really hard work, long hours, and strong family networks. So to them, this isn't about privilege. It's about sacrifice and effort. And then you got folks saying she's got double standards. Why only target Asian businesses? Why not apply the same logic to other groups? And people are really worried that this kind of rhetoric's just going to divide communities that have lived side by side for ages. So that's the situation in a nutshell. It's a big, messy debate with strong feelings on all sides.
The Asian and the black community need to be more united, because all I'm seeing right now is talk of boycotting Asian shops. And what that's doing is it's creating further divide. Asians are seeing this and they're being robbed the wrong way and saying things back, which is now creating further divide, which is not what we want. From young, some of our best friends are Asian, some of our other best friends are black. We don't care. We're all happy, we're just together, we're having fun. I feel like sometimes it might be a London problem, because when you go further up north to Birmingham, Manchester, Sheffield, them sort of areas, black and Asian communities, they're like this. They're tight, they're united. And you'd see a Jamaican man in a Pakistani shop and you see the Pakistani man in a Jamaican shop. But at the end of the day, we're all ethnic minorities. Our communities might be different and we might go through different struggles, but we share some of the same struggles. So we should be united. Even with our community's culture, we might be very different, but we also share some similar things. You might see an Asian-owned shop and a black-owned shop selling the exact same spices. But that doesn't mean you should go to...
What if black people are boycotting Asian businesses? If that's what it takes to wake our community up.
I have the perfect historical example why collective revenge is not going to wake anyone up. It's 1991 Brooklyn, and a Jewish driver accidentally hits and kills a black child named Gavin Cato. A private Jewish ambulance comes and takes the driver away before it takes away Gavin Cato, who is still on the ground. You know this is America because the ambulance is privatized. This is followed by 3 days of riots targeting Orthodox Jewish businesses and residents in Crown Heights. At Gavin Cato's funeral, Al Sharpton speaks, and he calls the Jewish people in the community diamond merchants, which is pretty racist. So he's blaming this on the entire community for the actions of one man. So did the Jewish community wake up and declare their solidarity with the black community? So before this event, Jewish people were in a democratic coalition with black people and had helped elect New York City's first black mayor, David Dinkins. 2 years later, Jewish people voted overwhelmingly for his Republican opponent, Rudy Giuliani. Yes, that Rudy Giuliani, Mr. Stop and Frisk, Mr. Aggressive Policing, Mr. Anti-Black. Jewish people had also funded a lot of civil rights organizations, and the funding cooled significantly after this event. The conversation stopped being about how institutions need to change, how we need better laws for ambulances, and became about how people need to change, how groups of people need to change. Does that sound familiar? So if you look at most of history, collective action against a group will usually just create more collective action against that group, and it just repeats over and over. It is not productive at all. There's like a million cases of this, but I thought this was the best one. Anyways, follow to learn more about history instead of learning about how to be more performative.